just getting pine needles out. As always, I got big pine trees. As you can see, I mean, the koi will eat them and everything, but I try not to make them eat pine needles while they eat the food I'm about to feed them. So, and it's about the only time I actually, I guess, scoop the pond or skim the pond. So, still have tons of bubbles from this air pump. I'm considering gas, or not gassing, but funneling some off. But the koi are doing really well. So,
well, tell us about the pond. What size is it?
I don't even know. I think it's like 4,000 gallons. Like it's 10 feet wide by 10 feet wide, and then 6 feet deep. So you can see, you may or may not be able to see, but some koi are very far down there, and that's because it's 6 feet, and it's for predators and that kind of stuff. We don't want it to be very easy. We have had a heron stalking it, but has never dove in or anything, and I don't want to put a net on unless I absolutely have to. I bought a big expensive auto feeder that totally didn't work, so now I feed them by hand still, even though I keep telling myself I'm going to get an auto feeding solution so they get fed 4 or 5 times a day. Black and white ones are Shiro series, so they've got scale patterns on them. Where like this guy,
I really like this one right here.
Yeah, black and white Shiro series, and the gray kind of pattern will come up out of them. Kind of the older they get and the better food they get, the more intense that black will get. And you can see it like in their head, it hasn't really come through yet. That's a kohaku. So a lot of times you'll see these names in tropical fish, like the kohaku swordtail, the showa swordtail. And the kohaku just means red and white. And then a showa is red, white, and black. And you know, there's sanke also, which also shows up in tropical fish. And that would be, you know, I think that one has more black than the Showa. I can't remember. One of the two has more black basically, and you know, but I just buy the ones I think look cool, and some of them, you know, like this is a Matsuba. This guy's won awards when I've taken him to shows. He does all right, and he's just cool looking. Try to keep him by the camera for you. But this guy is Doitsu. So Doitsu usually means no scales or limited scales, and so Doitsu a lot of times will have scales right along their back and then maybe right down their lateral line, but not much else. Their color looks more like a tattoo than it does fish scales. Whereas something like the Matsuba, the scales are very prominent part of the pattern. And the kohaku here, yes, there's scales, but it's red and white and it's not part of it. Where these, like this guy, the scales are very big, Doitsu. It's different looking fish. This is Doitsu down here, this kohaku Doitsu, so it's white and red, but because it has almost no scales, the color is like more intense versus this kohaku right here that just went that way with all the scale. Mostly I buy them small, you know, like I think with these Shiro series, when I was buying them I was paying about $80. So yeah, $80 might seem like a lot, but being from Osako, the farm I want it from, which are known for, so a lot of farms, they specialize in different types of koi. One might specialize in kohaku, one might specialize in Shiro series and that kind of stuff. They get known, they win championships, and so you kind of want good bloodlines. If you're looking for, you can look at the parents and go, my fish will probably look good because we're going to spend years growing these fish out. The place I buy from, which is koi.com, which happens to be local to us, you know, they've got fish that are $10,000. So I'm definitely not in that game at all. I think I bought this crazy looking, like Kiramaku? I can't remember what it was, but it's all metallic looking, and I bought it at auction for $100. And sometimes, you know, you go out just to have the day out and look at koi, and you give yourself a budget of like, I'm gonna spend $100 maybe, or I'll buy a couple fish, and it was just something I didn't have. And that's kind of how I buy fish, is what is it that I don't have and I want to look at. And so that's how I got some of the butterfly koi. The butterfly koi, when we bought them, were very small, and they were like $25 or $30. And you know, your average pet store, like what we would sell, we used to sell koi like this, smaller, and they'd be about $40 a piece. And now we sell, you know, just what's called pond grade koi, and they're just $9.99. And for most people, that's what they want. They just want big fish, not necessarily a certain pattern or anything like that. You know, like this kohaku that is Doitsu is starting to build its shoulder area, kind of the top of the head, and be a very big fish is what it's going to be. But with those black spots on it, we hope they go away, and it'll be a better looking fish. Not that I'm looking to sell it or anything like that, but it just is a cleaner look to it.
How long does it take for them to grow out?
So these, most of the fish I've had for, I want to say about 3 to 4 years now. Could be even longer. I mean, obviously some of the small fish are new, like as of last year. But some of these, the biggest scaled ones, I think he's probably 5 years old, and I kept him more in a quarantine pond that was about 1,000 gallons, and I wasn't feeding him very heavy. So a fish like that would be kind of stunted, and so at a stunted size, it might only hit, 24 inches or so, which for most people is like, wow, that's a big koi. But if we were really able to power feed and do a lot of water changes and give them a lot of space, we can get them 30 inches or more. And that's obviously kind of desirable because they're big and they look cool. Part of what grows a koi would be how much they have to swim. And so if we put really big currents in here, that helps build muscle mass, and you have to match it with a lot of food. The one year I did use an auto feeder, we really put a lot of growth on. I asked to do a lot of water changes too. And we went through just an insane amount of food. I think I fed about $400 worth of food that summer. And so, when you're getting some of these koi, if you're gonna put $400 of food into a koi, you want it to look kind of cool when you're done with it, because if you're doing that year after year after year, you don't want to just like get rid of it. And some of those koi over the years we have, sold to other people. Sometimes people just want big koi, and it's kind of a much bigger natural pond in their their backyard or their back acres or something like that. And so we're trying to keep them nice and friendly and coming up and not run from people. So I try to stand over them as they feed and make them feed longer time, like a longer time period. So, obviously there's still pellets in here, and they're what I like about these pellets is they really hold their shape so they don't degrade, right? And that means that this isn't going into my filters and they're not releasing a bunch of stuff. So it gives the koi a long time to feed, and because I'm only feeding usually about once a day now, I like to give them big feedings to make up for not feeding them a bunch of times, especially when I'm out of town and that kind of stuff. So, pellet choice is important. There's definitely pellets that are much higher in protein, or they've got a lot more fines that fall off them. If you're really trying to bring out color, what is it, like daffodil? I think daffodil helps. There's things you can, natural color enhancers that get put into koi foods to help with that. But I'm never really chasing the color. I mostly size and let them color up naturally. I don't need them to be color up too much, because if you go with like a red color enhancer, a lot of times on these white koi, if someone's using color enhancer, what you're going to see is a lot of pink on the white. And so that's when you know someone's trying really hard. So like the whites are pretty good on most of these fish. And when they're not, like this Showa down here, it's because his color hasn't finished coming in yet. So it's just under the scales. And yeah, but I like to watch them. These koi can radically change. When you see black on them now, they might not have that at all in a year or two. And if they, have almost no color, they can put on a ton. And usually the koi you buy at a small age will look nothing like what the adult will look like in 3-4 years. And so that's why it's kind of nice to know what the parents look like. You have some idea. And so you might, be able to kind of make an educated purchase instead of a grab bag. And that's where the koi in the pond variety are more like a grab bag. You go, oh, give me 10 of those, they're $100, and we'll just see what comes out. They'll get big. And for most people, they would say these are big koi, but these are actually small. Professional breeders a lot of times can get what most of my koi are. They call them tosai, year 2. In the second growing season, they'll already have them this big, but they'll be in a natural mud pond. They'll be fed with auto feeders, and they'll be getting water changes, and people looking at them and sorting them and continually growing them for size, because at 2 years old with a big size, you get a lot more money and the color will be better. Whereas like a pond grade fish that we can buy, might already be a year and a half and it's only 4 inches. Now in this big pond, I haven't tried to catch any of them out, so I have no idea how difficult that is. I have done a pretty big water change and drained it down low, and I think I could catch them then. But probably next year I'll take them out and I'll measure them, because it's kind of fun to post those pictures on Facebook and then get reminded next year and measure it again and go, wow, we put 2 inches on, or oh, they didn't grow at all. I need to get better about feeding more often. And yeah, this summer been busy kind of working on like the warehouse and that kind of stuff. So this project, which was very important to me, keeps getting put off. And now that we're almost into August, you know, I don't know that I'll set up an auto feeder just for a month and take it back down. So I'll probably just keep hand feeding and enjoying them when I can, and you know, hope for the best next year. Hopefully I'm in a spot where I can, you know, really put a lot of growth. But at the same time, if all these fish become 3-foot monsters, then it's gonna be a little bit crowded in here. So I'm not really in a race either.
Well, awesome. Thanks for sharing your pond with me.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe one day we'll do some more koi videos.